This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going way back in time. Now back in World War I, that was known as sort of the battle in the trenches, where German armies literally were in the trenches and fighting the battles from there. Many years later, right before World War II in the 1930s, is where we're at, where there was a liberal government trying to keep hold of everything. But there were some fascists rising up, and one of them was trying to be Secret Hitler. This is a new social deduction game for 5 to 10 players. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get one of these secret envelopes, and in this envelope are going to be a bunch of cards. One is going to be their party membership. This will tell them whether they're on the bad team, the fascists, or the good team, the liberals. This is a 7-player game setup, and there's a different amount of these given out depending on the amount of players. Now, in addition to just your party, you'll also get a special role. And there's only 3 types of roles. Liberals will always say liberals, and on the fascist side, you'll either get a fascist, or you'll get one that says Hitler. So every game, one of the fascists will be Hitler, all the other ones will just be regular fascists. So that's the difference. Also, everybody will get 2 ballot cards. One of them will say ja, as in yes, and the other will say no, or nien. All these will go in that envelope, and you'll get secretly given this. They'll get shuffled, and you can peek in your envelope and check out your cards. Now at the beginning of the game, 7 or more players, the fascists are going to get to see each other. So the people with the fascist roles will open up their eyes and see each other. They'll be the only ones looking at each other. Then with their eyes open, Hitler with his eyes closed will be asked to put his thumb up. So these players will know who the Hitler is, and they're on each other's team. Hitler won't know who anybody is, and the liberals won't know who anybody is. Now with 5 or 6 players, they'll end up only being one fascist, and so Hitler and the only fascist will actually get to see each other. Now there's 3 different boards that you'll use depending on how many players. It says 7 or 8 players, so we would use this fascist side of the board, and we would flip any one of those 2 out to have the liberal side. So here you have the game up, the fascist and the liberal board. We also set up all the policies. There's 11 policies in the game. This is going on the draw pile side, and then here's where they will end up getting discarded. But let's talk about the game. Now over the course of the game, the liberal team is trying to win by either having the 5th liberal policy enacted or by assassinating Hitler. The fascist team is trying to win by enacting 6 fascist policies, or after 3 fascist policies have been enacted, the real Hitler, the secret Hitler, has become the chancellor. Each round, one player will be the president. They get this really cool wooden marker here that has some rules on the back and it has this on the front. And this player will talk to everybody and try to figure out who should this player try to elect for chancellor. Once they've talked, they will say, hey, I'm going to make this guy chancellor. And then everybody talks about it, and then essentially they will have a vote. This is another one of those cool little wooden pieces here with rules on the back. So one player will get this in front of them, one player has this in front of them. Now this part of it is called the election. And by the way, the president cannot try to make someone a chancellor if they were the chancellor or the president in the very previous round. So once everybody knows who's going for office here, everyone puts in their ballot, yes or no. Everyone will then flip it up, and it will be yes or no. If the majority of them are yes, then these 2 players will go to a legislative session. If it's tied or the majority is no, this will then move to 1 failure, and the president will be moved 1 player clockwise, and we will start another election. If it fails 3 times in a row, the top policy from the policy deck would be open and would be placed on the board. In this case, this would have been placed on the fascist board, and then it would start over and the next player would be president. But let's say it passed and we went to a legislative session. The president would draw the top 3 policies, and secretly, only they would look at these, and what they would do is they would take one of these and they would place it face down in the discard pile so no one knows which one they discarded. The other 2, they would pass secretly to the chancellor, who then would discard one of them and they would play the other one. In this case, it was fascist. And this would go right here. Now this tells us a few things. Either those guys were fascists, or maybe all 3 cards that they drew were fascists and both those players were liberals. We wouldn't quite know. Now at this point, it would have just gone to a new election and the president would have gone clockwise to a new player. But let's say over a course of rounds, different fascist policies were indeed placed on these. And when they get placed on something, a presidential power happens, meaning whoever is president that round would get to enact these different presidential powers, and they're slightly different on the different boards. And this one allows the president to investigate a player's party membership. That player would secretly give them this party membership card, and they would just say whether they are fascist or liberal. Secretly, they would know that and pass it back. And then there's lots of lying in this game. This one is the president picks the next presidential candidate. Here is the president must kill a player. Again, if they assassinate Hitler, the liberals win. This one is the president must kill a player, and then veto power is unlocked. And this basically means if both the president and the chancellor decide to discard all of the policies, they can do so, but only if they both agree to do it. And this continues until the fascists either get 6 policies done or get 3 of them passed and Hitler elected as chancellor, or the liberals trying to get 5 of their policies passed or murder Hitler. And here's the board for 5 or 6 players, has a different ability. President examines the top 3 cards, do not change the order, so they get to know what's going on in the future round. Well, there's Secret Hitler. Now, I gotta tell you, in general, I love social deduction games. In fact, when I did my top 100 of all time a couple years ago, 2 of my top 10 of all time were social deduction games. That was Resistance Avalon and One Night Ultimate Werewolf. I love this genre, and I have a great group for it. Now, this game has had a ton of buzz and a ton of hype. It raised almost $1.5 million on Kickstarter. People have been playing like print and play versions for a while, and everyone's been saying how good it was, and I was super excited about this. Does it live up to it? First, and this has been done by the same team that brought us Cards Against Humanity, so they know what they're doing when they're going for, a more, centralized mass market-ish type, audience, but also crosses over to the game groups as well. Let me start off with the components and the art and stuff. I think that the components and the art are excellent in this game. I think it is tastefully done. I love the boards. The boards look awesome. They have like this gold foil on them that you can see on certain spots. The red versus the blue is very interesting, easy to see. The tiles used for the policies are really nice. Those little envelopes are a nice trick. It's really fun that when you get the cards and you just like take out the envelope and peeking in. That's always a fun thing to do. So production-wise, this game is solid. The artwork, I really like how they tastefully did the fascists and even Hitler as their sort of reptiles. If this was a face of Hitler, even though you're dealing with this, it might have been just too much for some people, but so I like the fact that they kind of just went ambiguous with the lizards and the reptiles there. I thought that was a cool touch, and I really like that aspect of it, and all the art in the game is amazing. The production value is excellent in this game. Now the game itself, now obviously this game, the people who designed this played Resistance or Resistance Avalon and went, hey, let's try to clean this up and change it and tweak it and make it a little bit different, because obviously the core base mechanics is very, is based off of that. There's a leader, you're trying to figure out who to put on the team, and people are going to quickly either fail or the missions are going to go one way or another. So most people are going to want to know, how does this compare to it? And I'll get to that. But the game itself, this is what I tell you the strengths are, is yes, it's a social deduction game that will invoke a lot of emotion from you right off the bat. People are going to be pointing fingers, yelling and screaming, and that's what you want in a good social deduction game, and that's what happens there. There's lots of tension, especially when the fascists get those 3 policies passed every single time a chancellor is voted on. It has a heavy weight with lots of tension. Everyone holds their breath. It brings everything that a good social deduction game should do. Now, it also streamlines, I'd say, from the Avalon, where it does seem easier to teach. I think this will go over better in circles of people that don't really play a whole lot of games, because it is a more streamlined, it's easier to teach. You don't have to worry about, well, if you're good, you have to tell the truth, and if you're bad, you can do either. It's just like, the policy parts is a lot easier. You're just drawing 3, you're discarding 1, you're putting there, and you're putting 1 down. It just seems to be a lot easier to teach. So it definitely feels streamlined. It definitely feels easier to teach than I would say Avalon, but it gives you a very similar experience. Now, where it really differs is that whole Hitler thing, right? Hitler, for the most part, with more than 6 players, does not get to know who his teammates are. The bad guys are, but the bad guys get to see Hitler, and that's really cool. That's a big twist between this and, say, Resistance or Resistance Avalon. And that really makes the game feel different. So it feels similar, in many ways, but at the same time, you can tell it's different. The theme is so strong, enacting the policies, trying to figure out which side you're on. The theming in this game is awesome, and it invokes that emotion. So I absolutely really love this game. I think it's a great addition to the social deduction genre that I think will fit even more of the mainstream niche than, say, Avalon or Resistance would have, but still keeping the gamers happy. Now, another big difference is in sort of Resistance, everything is known information. So if somebody goes on a mission and someone fails it, I know if 2 people went on and 1 failed it, we know for a fact at least one of those 2 are bad. In this game, it casts a doubt because if someone threw a fascist policy in there and the guy goes, well, I had 3 red ones and 3 fascists and I had to discard 1 and I gave you 2. There's still that thing of, okay, are they both bad or did that really happen? There's that casting of doubt, so you never quite know for sure what's going on. Some people will like that better because they don't want to be under the total pressure and the scrutiny of, I just lied, I've got to hide on a rock, I've got to stand strong and pretend like I'm telling the truth. Where in this game, it's a little bit easier to sort of hide and do that thing and just go, I was given 3 reds, or I was given 2 reds, I didn't have a choice. And that makes a big difference because it makes it easier on the people to lie, I think. So people that were really afraid of being put on the spot in Resistance and such will like this better. Myself, in deduction games, special social deduction games, I like more perfect information. So personally, I like having the actual real information myself better. But I still really like this game. I think it's going to do really well. It's going to do amazing. It's coming out in Gen Con, and it's going to do amazingly well. And I think the community is going to love it. Personally, I still like Avalon better because of that reason. I like the more perfect information. I like the different roles. I like the Merlin and the Assassin and such. But this one I really like too because it is different but yet the same, and it will cater to other people, more mainstream flex gamers like it. We polled everyone we've played with this game, and pretty much it was split 50-50. Some people, half of them like this better than, say, Resistance, and the other half liked Resistance better, but everyone says it's awesome and it's different enough, and I really like it. So if you like social deduction games, this might be the next one you need to try out, and that's Secret Hitler.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter, making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.